Karen is one of Nairobi's most affluent and picturesque suburbs, located about 20 kilometers southwest of the city's central business district. Known for its sprawling mansions, lush gardens, equestrian estates, and tranquil tree-lined avenues, it evokes a sense of elegance and serves as a haven for Kenya's elite, including politicians, diplomats, and expatriates. The suburb's name, however, traces back to a single remarkable woman, a Danish baroness and author, Karen Blixen, better known as Karen Blixen, or by her pen name Isaac Dinesen. Her life in Kenya during the early 20th century not only shaped the area's early development, but also immortalized it through her memoir Out of Africa, 1937. The memoir Out of Africa later inspired the 1985 Academy Award-winning film starring Meryl Streep and Robert Redford. The story of how Karen got its name is intertwined with British colonial expansion, European settler ambitions, and Blixen's personal triumphs and tragedies. I will outline the key historical context, her timeline in Kenya, and the suburb's evolution drawing on documented accounts. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Kenya was opened to white European settlement as part of Britain's imperial strategy to boost agriculture and infrastructure, particularly along the Uganda Railway. Vast tracts of fertile highland, often expropriated from Maasai and Kikuyu communities, were granted to European farmers on generous terms. The Ngong Hills area, where Karen now stands, was part of this white highlands zone. It was prized for its cool climate, reliable rainfall, and scenic views. By the 1910s, coffee plantations dominated, drawing adventurous aristocrats from across Europe seeking fortune and romance. Karen Blixen entered this world as an unlikely pioneer, a 28-year-old Danish noblewoman from a wealthy family, driven by a mix of idealism, love, and economic necessity. Her arrival marked the beginning of a chapter that would subtly influence the naming of the land she once called home. Blixen's 17-year-old sojourn in Kenya between 1914 and 1931 was a whirlwind of passion, hardship, and literary inspiration. Here is a detailed chronology. Blixen arrived in British East Africa in 1913, shortly after the outbreak of World War I. She had become engaged to her Swedish cousin, Baron Bernhard von Blixen-Finecke. He was a big game hunter who had arrived a year earlier to scout land. They married in Mombasa on January 14, 1914. They bought a 6,000-acre farm located near Ngong, about 10 kilometers from Nairobi. They wanted to raise cattle on the farm but decided to settle on coffee. World War I disrupted supplies and the farm's coffee yields were poor due to the altitude and soil. Blixen, undeterred, managed the estate with a small team of African workers, including her devoted cook, Kamante, and houseboy Farah, who are both immortalized in her writings. She built the iconic stilted house, which is now the Karen Blixen Museum, to protect against termites and wildlife. Her marriage crumbled amid bros, infidelities, and chronic financial woes. They divorced in 1921, but Blixen retained the farm. Karen met Dennis Finch Hatton, a charismatic British aristocrat, pilot and hunter. He became Blixen's lover and muse. Their relationship, which was filled with safaris and gramophone evenings, inspired much of Out of Africa. Finch Hatton's death in a plane crash in 1930 devastated her. Meanwhile, the farm teetered on bankruptcy. She began writing seriously during this period, publishing short stories under her pseudonym Isaac Dinesen. A 1925 slump in coffee prices, combined with droughts and her decline in health, proved fatal for the farm. By 1931, unable to maintain the farm, she sold the 6,000 acres to developer Remy Martin and returned to Denmark in October of that year. She was penniless and heartbroken. She later wrote, "I had a farm in Africa at the foot of the Ngong Hills," encapsulating her bittersweet legacy. Karen Blixen was not universally beloved among fellow settlers. She was seen as eccentric and overly familiar with Africans. She once famously pleaded to the governor provide aid to Africans, yet her eloquence and resilience left an indelible mark. The naming of Karen occurred post-Blixen's departure, as her former farm was subdivided for residential plots. In the 1930s and 1940s, as Nairobi expanded, developers parceled out the land to affluent buyers, creating a gated community for the colonial elite. The suburb adopted Karen as a nod to Blixen, whose fame from her writings was growing. She herself claimed credit in her later works, stating that the residential district of Karen was named after her, though no formal decree exists. The Karengata Association, formed around 1940 to oversee the area encompassing Karen and adjacent Langata, helped solidify the name and manage infrastructure like roads and water. By then, the suburb was already synonymous with exclusivity. Plots required minimum acreages between 1 to 5 acres, ensuring a low-density, verdant layout. Kenya's independence in 1963 accelerated Karen's transformation. Nairobi gained city status in 1950, redefining boundaries. Karen was absorbed into the Nairobi City Council by 1963. Land, once deemed worthless in the 1960s, with abundant wildlife like lions and giraffes roaming freely, skyrocketed in value. Daily traffic was sparse with under 100 cars and public transport limited to one matatu per hour. Rapid urbanization brought banks, supermarkets, hospitals, schools, and religious institutions. The suburb became a hub for Kenya's emerging black middle and upper classes alongside whites. Today, Karen boasts some of Africa's priciest real estate, with 4-bedroom homes rivaling UK prices. Luxury SUVs dominate, traffic clogs the Gong Road, and matatus number in the dozens. It retains a rural charm with ponies in the lanes, but faces modern pressure like urban sprawl. Karen Blixen's house, which was preserved as a museum since 1986, draws tourists, underscoring her enduring life. In essence, Karen's name emerged from a quiet act of colonial homage to a woman whose African dream ended in failure but birthed global literary stardom. The suburb stands as her unintended monument, a verdant oasis amid Nairobi's bustle, where history whispers through the acacia trees. The Karen Blixen Museum charges are 200 shillings for citizen adults, 100 shillings for citizen children, 600 for adult East African residents, 400 for children who are East African residents, 1,200 for adults non-resident, and 600 for children who are non-residents. The museum is open from 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day, including public holidays. Thank you for watching till the end. Subscribe down below and leave a comment on which video you'd like to see next. See you on the next one.